Hi, Robyn. How are you?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, pleasure.
I love to be able to be here.
Yeah, right.
I love the getup. I love
Thank you.
seeing the medal.
Yeah, it's a beautiful medal. Very
love it.
nice. Very
This was your
nice.
first Boston Marathon.
It was. It was.
And you were just telling us off air, which is why everybody caught us kind of talking to you. You've only been running marathons or like really running long distance for the last year and a half?
Right. I ran my first half marathon January of 2012.
What makes somebody, get into marathon running, later on? And
Well, I was turning 50 in 2012, and I said, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to run a half marathon, actually, and I just kind of got caught up in it. The people are great. Runners are great. It's a sport where you're not so much competing with others as you are yourself.
Right.
But to do because your marathon time at the Boston Marathon was 3 hours and
33 minutes and 25 seconds.
that's I don't know what you finished in your age group, but that's like really
very good.
You did? What did you finish?
70 seconds.
Seven out of how many?
At least 500.
Right. So this is like spectacular.
That's very good.
A 3.5 hour marathon is spectacular, but to do it at Boston. So tell us what happens. You get through.
Okay.
You're 40 minutes in advance of the bombings.
Correct.
What happened? What'd you see?
Well, you come through the marathon and you have, you walk on through and you have your blanket and you get a little bit of food and then you're presented with your medal, and then you continue on down and they take a few pictures, and then at that point there's school buses where all of your clothes are, your warm clothes. So you go down there and collect your clothes. Well, I was looking at my medal and it had a flaw in the ribbon. It was like a tear. I don't know if I had scratched it putting something on. So I was going to go back and exchange it. And
Because it's your first Boston
my
Marathon.
first
and you want it to be
You're going to
perfect,
show that
right.
medal off, Yeah.
And I was asked, I said, should I do this? And people were going, absolutely. So I was walking back and I was going against the incoming runners, so I was staying on the side where most of the medical help were with some of the wheelchairs, for runners coming through, obviously. And so I just kept heading down that direction, and then I had my medal, they exchanged it, took the other one, he put this one over my neck, and I turned around and took about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 steps, and I just heard the first loud boom and just turned around and stopped in my tracks, turned around and heard the second and all the smoke going up. I'm a flight attendant with Delta Airlines, and just being around things that go on and being awareness and everything, my first thought was, it's 9/11, this is a terrorist attack.
So
That was
Right
my
away.
initial thought.
let me just get this straight. First bomb goes off, you immediately think terrorist attack.
Absolutely.
How long in between the first and the second? Because you must have been standing right there then.
It was very close. They were very close together, at least to me. My best recollection of it is they were very close. I guess I was probably half a football field length away.
So you
is my
think,
guess.
right, but you immediately think terrorist attack,
Absolutely.
and what do you do?
I stop and I look at it and I go, oh my gosh, this is bad. And I'm looking, because of all the smoke that's going up, I'm looking up higher in the buildings thinking, could this be a remake of 9/11 was my thought. And because it was hard to tell because the smoke, the way it immediately pillared upwards, it was very difficult for me to determine at what point it was. So my thought is my family, which I knew where they were.
Right.
I knew they were safe distance away. And so I got to get out of here.
Right.
This lady that was beside me was just in a complete panic. She was trying to head the other direction, and I said, "Don't go that." I said, "No, don't go that way." And I said, "Come on, we need to get away from here."
Right.
And she was starting to cry and getting a little hysterical. And as we're walking, kind of, I guess it was more of a brisk walk away, kind of looking over my shoulder. I wasn't seeing anything else happening at that point, but you never, you're still waiting for that next incident.
Right.
And so I asked her, I said, are you looking for your family? And she said, yes. And I said, what does your last name start with? Because they had everything in last name is where you met your family members. And she said, T. And I said, you're close to where I am, so come with me. So I just kind of held on to her and we walked and kind of ran together. And at this point you're seeing police officers, you're seeing fire trucks, and yet the ambulances are just...
Could you hear, can you hear it? Screams, sirens, noise.
The sirens, absolutely. I could not hear, I don't think I could even tell you if I heard screams. You could just see people panicking.
Right.
It was more of a stillness on people's face. just that, got to get out of here. And people are running, looking back, walking, looking back, and just trying to get away.
Did you have any friends or people that you had been running with that you were nervous?
I was.
I mean,
they
your
were
time was
behind
really
me.
good, right?
Yeah, a lot of the people. In fact, I was with some other friends from Dallas, and I knew quite a few of them were behind me. But I didn't really, at that point, I really hadn't calculated how long I'd been through the finish line. But I knew that, they were back there, and I immediately started getting text messages once a little bit later, because you could not use your phones right off the bat.
Yeah.
I had already called my husband, because my parents had flown up from South Carolina. Wonderful people, thank goodness they're okay. And I knew they were fine, because I was going to meet them. And then this happened, so at that point I just wanted to get to where my family was.
Right.
Yeah.
Be with them.
Wow.
Be with them.
And thank God your parents were not anywhere near that.
No, actually the way that Boston Athletic Association has the meeting group for the families, it's about a half a mile away, and it's actually down the street and off to your right and over. So it's a pretty good distance away. My father and mother did hear the boom, and they thought maybe two great big trucks had collided, or construction site. Right. I did hear a police officer say construction site, which my thought there was, the stands where the